Steve. How you doing?
Great, Glenn. How about yourself?
Excellent, excellent. We really appreciate you hosting us this week. We've been in a week-long boot camp for Fuse, and it's our first time in corporate headquarters here, and we've really enjoyed it.
We've been glad you guys were able to come and happy to host you guys, and it's been great. Great couple of days.
Yeah, the first thing that struck me when I walked in the building is somehow you've built a company where everybody knows manufacturing. Like everyone in the hallway is talking deep manufacturing details, and you don't see that a lot in a software company.
No, and we're not the typical software company. I mean, most of the people, as you mentioned, if you walk around here, have actually been on the shop floor, have experienced, operations at some sort of level and have been involved in that process. It's something that, we bring true best practices to the table, and I think you can see it in some of our software as to how we think of things differently than other packages and really want to provide that flexibility and a way or a path for our customers to achieve their goals.
Exactly, yeah. Everybody says that, of course. Yeah, we believe in manufacturing, but it's actually true. Like you guys actually mean it. And you feel it as soon as you walk around. Like everybody is having nuanced manufacturing discussions. Everybody has worked on the plant floor, not just for a bit, but for years.
Right.
And it's a great culture you guys have built. I'm really enjoying it here.
Thanks so much. And we're glad to have you as a partner. So we're looking forward to what's down the road.
Yeah. So I thought what we would do here is, I, like many people at Fuse, I'm a lifelong manufacturing guy. And I thought I would just tee up some pain points that I've experienced in my career.
Sure.
And then let you kind of describe how Fuse would think about that.
Definitely.
I'll start with my favorite one. This is the most pain that I've ever felt in my manufacturing career. And I call it the supply chain and the factory floor divide.
Okay.
The short version of the story is if you're running MRP, with most manufacturers are, you have supply chain operating to a master schedule, which is a combination of backlog, POs you've got in hand, and a forward-looking forecast. And then you take that and you push it to all of your suppliers and say, this is which parts I need from you by which dates. And so far, so good, right? It's admittedly hard to forecast. The forecast is always wrong. But as far as it goes, that's not where the problem lies. Where the problem lies is, it's a 6-month forecast. Week 1 is happening right now on the factory floor.
Exactly.
And all heck breaks loose because you have an unexpected quality issue. Bill calls in sick. Another guy can't make it. Somebody else retired. Like something happens every week. A certain supplier can't deliver on time. Something disrupts the week 1 forecast every single time, or the week 1 plan on the factory every single time.
Definitely.
The specific pain point that I always felt is there's a big disconnect between the factory floor, who operates to factory floor work orders, make this batch of product, which is a very different thing from a sales order and a supply chain view, which is built up from these are the POs from the customers, this is the forward-looking forecast, and so they are perpetually out of sync. It's the hardest problem I've ever dealt with, and I hear Fuse can help solve that.
It's one of the many things we can do and help customers with and help our companies that we work with achieve the goals that they're trying to achieve. The big thing is really in that scenario, pegging the sales orders to the actual work order demand so that a planner or even the shop floor can see what customers' orders are they actually fulfilling with this production run. Nice. Most systems don't take that into account. They're just producing a blanket work order that's going to solve, 10 to 12 different sales orders. But if the planner or someone else could see what actual sales orders are making up that demand, that's going to allow them to see, can I do a partial shipment? Can I fulfill maybe 6 out of the 10 or 11? Nice. And see what kind of customer response we can get back to the customer, knowing on what kind of production runs we can produce with what we have in stock or what we can provide them.
That's amazing. And what's the concept called, the linking of those two together?
It's really pegging the sales order to the work order. And it comes to a bigger question of, getting data to the right people. And it's one of the reasons why we founded Fuse and how Fuse got started was just getting that extensibility of data and putting it into a format that's most usable for the organization.
Yeah. Love it.
Definitely.
So, that's a huge pain point, very real in the field. So that'll speak to manufacturers' hearts.
It's kind of that disconnect between ERP and the shop floor.
Exactly.
So the shop floor does, it needs that visibility, needs to understand some of those nuances coming out of ERP, and most systems don't do that. So, with our iPass, the underpinnings of the platform, you have that ability to map into those fields and bring that information across and display it how you need to display it for your floor or your planner.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. You'll add many years to the planner scheduler's life by having that capability.
Exactly.
That's a stressful position in the absence of pegging.
Completely. And it kind of rolls into another thing that we see oftentimes is most ERP systems can't give visibility down to the floor level. So, trying to just understand where you're at in process of building your product. Where's the visibility? How are we partially there? Do I have 50 units built out of 100 work order?
Yeah.
What work in process? Where's it at? Where's the inventory at? A lot of systems collapse and fall down, don't provide that visibility. Yeah. And that's really where Fuse steps in. We actually complement the ERP system. We let, I kind of draw the imaginary line at where the carpet meets the concrete.
Nice.
And when you walk through that door to the shop floor, that's really the place where Fuse takes over. And Fuse can handle everything from the inbound receiving all the way through the execution of the product being built, even to the shipping out to your customers. So ERP struggles a lot of times with visibility to where our parts are, where our components are, sub-assemblies, even the scheduling as those things are moving in real time, having an active scheduling board that understands where you're at with sub-assemblies and different components, not just understanding if they're within the shop floor 4 walls, but where are they at in their processing.
Exactly.
And then getting that out on a timely manner to your customer. That, along with the track and trace genealogy, are some of the big things that we see ERP systems struggle with.
For sure.
A lot of companies I've been investing in recently into programs like NetSuite, Business Central, and they're great products run in the cloud. Totally love their technology, but they're not meant to run on a shop floor. They're not meant to run and have the flexibility that most manufacturers need today. Having that visibility to what's happening in real time and understanding how my machines are running. And as you know, with Fuse, we can even take it to the extreme of going to PLCs and connecting to devices on the shop floor.
Exactly.
So not only controlling your production process, but actually recording what's happening, what took place, what were the conditions, what were the process parameters from the equipment even.
That got me. Actually, you teed up my next question really well there,
All right.
Steve. But so quality.
Yeah.
Every manufacturer struggles with quality. It's fundamentally hard to manufacture, design, and ship a quality product. It's just way harder. Until you try doing it, you have no idea how hard it is to do. But
definitely.
There's a number of prototypical problems that come up. So I'll throw some of these at you. The first one is you find a quality problem in the field. You're getting a lot of returns. You're getting a lot of warranty work. And it turns out that you figure out that the problem can be, it ultimately has to do with one part, but you don't know, how bad is this problem? Have I shipped 50,000 of these to the field, or is it one bad? What's the extent of the problem? Right. It's very difficult to figure out extent of problem, but it seems like the tracking and Fuse could help with that.
Yeah, and that's where we kind of take the logic beyond MES, beyond warehouse management, and look at it as the whole product life cycle. So if you can kind of think of those components, the truck backing up to the dock doors, your folks are receiving that information in to put in inventory so that you can use as part of your production process. Fuse actually can record all lot numbers, serial numbers of those components at the time of receipt, along with any type of documentation. So if you have certificates of conformance, heat treats, different things quality regulated documents that go along with those products. Yeah. When we receive those inside of Fuse, they then can be staged or given out to the production lines or the different cells or work centers. When they're issued to those work centers, that genealogy, that track and trace capability, those serial numbers, lot numbers, all that documentation is following it through the process.
That's amazing.
And most systems, will try to verify it, validate it at the time of production, but we look at it as the holistic approach. So we want to track everything from the time it comes in the door all the way until it leaves, and all the components and all the materials that go into that. Yeah. So that in your scenario, if we did have something that was of a quality concern or a nonconformance being reported or an escape taking place, you've got the ability to do a reverse lookup. I have this lot number of this component. It's suspect. Where else was it used? what shipments could have been affected by that. And quickly you can see in a moment's notice where was that material used, or where was it shipped out to.
And that's huge for quality engineers everywhere. Usually they don't have the luxury of that information at their fingertips.
Right.
You can save untold hours and just, effort on the engineering side trying to solve the problem in the first place. But also on the financial side, understanding the extent of the problem. Like, how big a deal is this?
Right.
How many customers are impacted? It's amazing to be able to track all the way through.
The worst case scenario is when you hear these stories and you hear companies that are pulling millions and millions upon units back because they have no visibility as to how bad the batch was they made or how big the shipment was.
Yeah, and the final irony is normally you don't have to do that. Like, the quality is. Most manufacturers are aware and want to have really good quality, and they have multiple measures in place to ensure that. So you've got tests at the component supplier.
Right.
You've got sub-assembly tests. In my experience, all of the manufacturers that I worked at that struggled with quality, it wasn't lack of effort. There was testing everywhere along the chain. What they didn't have typically was traceability. And so even despite the best test that an engineer can come up with in order to ensure that a particular thing works, inevitably, in certain applications in the field, things will break down for subtle reasons that you could never have anticipated in advance. When that happens, if you can track all the way back to the batch of a particular component that came into your supply, you can say, we're good, there's 50 units in the field, that's finite, we can address that. In the absence of traceability, you're in a really tough spot. You're like, we've shipped 10,000 units. I have no idea where this problem is, if everybody has it, if nobody has it.
And we've got examples. We've got some of our customers that'll take it to the extreme. So I've got a serial number of a part I produced, and we can actually take that serial number and go back and actually show you all the parameters of the machine when it ran that actual part.
That was part two. You keep teeing these up, Steve. Yep. This is great. Yeah. Because it's not always the supplier's fault. It could be something about your own OEM equipment. Like you've got a lot of equipment and processes on the plant floor.
Right.
The parameters of the recipe or whatever it was that you did for this particular batch, that matters every bit as much as the quality of the inbound components. And if you can track both of those, then, I mean, it's a quality engineer's dream. As soon as they're presented with a problem because they're getting a lot of returns, they can figure out exactly where it's located.
Yeah, the example I always use is the medical device maker that is doing injection molding parts for in-body components. And when they actually do an injection shot of that part, there's 120 parameters coming off that PLC from that injection molding machine that are being stored with that serial number.
Yeah.
So then if there is ever an issue or ever a concern, they can go see exactly at the time that shot was made, where the resin came from, what was that batch number, what were the machine settings. Because, no two machines are alike. Even though they come from the same manufacturer, they're all different. They all have their little nuances.
Always. They're at different life stages.
Exactly.
You forgot to lubricate it.
Exactly.
There's a million things that can go right.
So this could show you, basically the entire records of the machine, the equipment, the time it was produced, the parameters from the PLC. You can even trace it back into maintenance and quality to see what kind of tests were done. Was it done within calibration using the right instruments? Yeah. Was the machine properly maintained, and were those intervals maintained? All that information and history is right there and can all be reported up for you.
That's amazing. And you know who cares about that the most, arguably, is actually the head of R&D.
Right.
So the head of R&D is forever wrestling with, I want to build new products, cool new stuff, new technology, new platforms. Like, every engineer enjoys that more than the sustaining work. But every engineering leader faces this dilemma. Can I allocate resources to the new product platforms, or do I have to do a whole bunch of sustaining work? Mm-hmm. They're often blind. They're often not sure, like, okay, I've talked to quality, I've talked to operations, we have a yield issue and a quality issue here. Mm-hmm. Do I need to take my 3 best engineers off of the new platform and have them really dig deep on root cause there? Or is this not a big deal and we can attribute it to a simple mistake on a particular operations batch, and there's nothing to redesign? In fact, redesigning would be counterproductive.
Exactly.
You'll induce inevitably, anytime you redesign, you'll induce new failures that you didn't think of.
That's right.
And I think the head of engineering, the head of R&D, would arguably, of anyone, really want to have that data. And they're the type of folks that really love to dig into data like that. And they incorporate that wisdom back into the future platform design. So it's a really virtuous cycle.
Yep.
But the opposite is so painful. I've never met a VP of R&D that didn't daily wrestle with this trade-off between applying resources to quality and sustainability versus the fun new platform technology stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
This can at least give you the visibility to making the right trade-off.
Yep.
I dig it. And yeah, bills of material. The other big thing that they often wrestle with is bills of materials.
Sure.
So this was not at all intuitive to me until I worked directly in the manufacturing floor.
Yep.
But there's multiple. So a bill of materials, if the listener doesn't know, is simply all of the component parts that you procure to ultimately build your finished product.
Right.
So it's simply a listing, a bill, if you will, of the materials, the item numbers that you're procuring. Mm-hmm. It turns out that there's multiple different ways to think about that list.
Right.
So if you're in supply chain, you tend to like a flat bill of materials.
Sure.
Because you just want to know exactly what you need to procure in what quantities. However, if you're in manufacturing, you think in terms of the production process. And so, you want to set up a hierarchy, an M-BOM, a manufacturing BOM that shows you like intuitively, I've got 3 main stages in the process and like these are the materials that I need for you. That's how they think about the bill of materials. And then invariably, R&D thinks about it different as well because they're working in CAD. They're doing really difficult assemblies, and they have a ton of mechanical drawings to figure out. And GD&T, geometric dimensioning and tolerancing, matters a lot. And so they think about the bill of materials entirely differently. And I would love a magic solution that like everybody can have the BOM expressed in the way that they like. I've never experienced that, though.
Yeah, it's called the golden triangle between the systems. You got engineering running PLM in CAD, and they're just doing all the design work, and then they want to pass that information down to the MES onto the shop floor. Yeah. So with Fuse, we've got the iPaaS capabilities for this integration where we'll connect PLM to MES, and then we'll also report up finished good values and inventory values to ERP. So that people, ultimately some people want to track the digital thread. It's, how do I make this product, the digital twin, the digital thread? It's starting in engineering and R&D. It's going down to production, and then it goes off to our customer and goes into a maintenance type approach or phase of its life.
Nice.
We offer that capability by integrating these 3 systems together so that you could have that digital twin. You could see as it was built, all the different factors that go into it. Plus, you have the luxury of having the communication with any type of engineering changes.
Yeah.
Where those PLM items can push down to the MES, or if you got your digital work instructions up there at the PLM level, those can push down to your MES. So there's that bi-directional communication where the floor can kind of work with the engineers and communicate up if they're having challenges or need a deviation or need any type of information to be changed.
Yeah.
And the engineering can make sure that the most up-to-date current version of what they need to have built is taking place and being built on the floor.
That's amazing. So the engineers can think in PLM because PLMs are reasonably intuitive for engineers.
Right.
I mean, they were built as a bridge between CAD and the engineering world and ERPs and the factory floor, hence the golden triangle you were describing. But the tough thing is in the absence of a PLM or in the absence of integration between whatever you're using as your PLM, even if it's Excel, and the factory floor, things just get out of sync really quickly. And you have a bunch of ECOs being processed, you have change orders. It's remarkably difficult to keep those things aligned to make sure that the factory floor is using the new procedure and is using the new serial number for the new subassembly. And without careful tracking between or syncing between the ECOs done by the sustaining engineers, the factory floor, and what's being procured in the ERP, it's just remarkable how quickly that gets out of sync. And
it is. And it's, the biggest problem I think with most companies today is just managing the data and managing the flow of the data.
Yeah.
And they'll come up with many systems and many solutions to try to create the data. But the reality is it's all disjointed and it's not in a manner where it can be used and passed easily to other systems.
Exactly. Yeah. Some of my favorite moments is, you're in a conference room, you're internally with you're the manufacturing team, and you're doing a root cause analysis on some problem. And a question will be like, did you use Rev 15 or Rev 17 for that build? And they're like, heck if I don't know. I have a printout. It says Rev 13 on it. Does that answer your question? And like, which one failed? What do we have in the field? It adds so much efficiency to have all of that organized well. Everybody can understand, and you're reading from the same book. You know exactly what you're dealing with. So for root cause teams, man, is that helpful?
Yeah, if you can put in a system that gives you that control and takes that headache out of the equation by making sure that people are using the most current, up-to-date data points and information, it's a lot easier to do your job and get better and more efficient at what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. No question. And, I would be remiss if I didn't give some love to the finance team, to finance and accounting, cost accounting, FP&A. they have a hard job too.
Yes.
And one of the frustrations I had as a business leader, so I was running a large manufacturing plant, and oftentimes we wouldn't have precise knowledge of our gross margin until after quarter close.
Sure.
In my particular case, we were working on a standard costing approach.
Okay.
So like we would record the standard costing transactions as they were happening. So you had
Right.
like a rough cut idea of how your margins were tracking over the quarter.
Yep.
But the variances were a different story. And
Right.
it was very difficult to understand, number one, which variances were happening. Are they labor variances? Are they
Right.
energy variances, something about the utilities coming in?
Right.
Material variances were
Sure.
typically the biggest driver. Material variances were almost always the most material ones, no pun intended. They were the biggest ones.
Right.
But the theme was at the close of quarter, you knew your standard margin is the right terminology,
Sure.
not your gross margin. And
Right.
the variances would inevitably surprise you. The good surprises were okay by me. I was all right with them. The bad surprises were not. And
No.
I would miss a commitment that I had made to the corporate team that I'm going to deliver this gross margin. And man, it's painful when you miss that commitment, but don't even know until afterwards. And
Yep.
like with the other problems, I would love a magical solution to help me track that along the way during the quarter.
Well, what you really want to do is just compare the actuals to what your standards are and doing that in a timely manner. So the reality is, as the production's taking place and the actuals are being updated, with Fuse, you could actually build a KPI or a dashboard that combines the information from ERP, brings in the live production data. So at a moment's notice, you could see how that job's running to standard. How's it running to for the month or to the goals, so that quickly you don't have to wait till the end of the month and after the fact. You can see it in real time. Am I making money or losing money on this production run?
That's a
And then
big
how do I
deal.
pivot
And
to make sure that we're not losing money for the rest of the month?
you got and even better, can you do that like in ERP speak? They use routings. So
Yep.
in a standard costing system, you have routings that the product goes through to be
Sure.
ultimately built. It's really hard to get the variances like by the work center as the product is routed between each of the areas. Can you actually root cause it all the way down to this is the specific cell where the variance is being driven by?
Yeah, because we're actually, if you're set up properly, you can actually get all the actual information, the actual data points as each operation's taking place instead of just the overall product.
That's yeah, and so basically you
You can find out
real-time-
if it's line 2 and operator Joe or Sally at second shift is really causing the biggest variance in this performance of this machine, which is costing us money.
And that's huge. Like understanding root cause, just as bad as missing a gross margin commitment, like as the president of a business,
Right.
is not knowing why. And
Exactly.
That the equal sins, both are terrible.
That's right.
That's great. And let's see, who have we missed? IT. How could I forget? Our most important partner, IT, the enabler of the whole business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, with IT, a couple of big things we hear often from our customers is they're trying to find a way to future-proof what they're doing and what they're building to help solve and support the business today. So they have been using some legacy systems, and they've been creating applications, Access databases, Ignition, different applications out there that they can use, platforms they can use. And what they're really trying to do is, how do I bridge that to the enterprise? How do I make this scale and be more global? With Fuse, you have the ability to do so. We can kind of be that bridge between IT and OT.
Nice.
We also, if need to, we have the ability to provide, as part of our platform, a development toolkit that the IT group can actually build applications on and solve some of their problems. So they may be running great with some of the applications they have today, but they get, over time, they're going to need enhancements. They're going to need business changes and the ability to have flexibility. With Fuse, you're future-proofing the business because the tool set's automatically updating and it's versionless. So you have the ability to take advantage of new technology with not having to recreate everything all over again each time you want to make a change to it. You also have the ability to reduce some of the vendors in the tech stack so that, commonly we'll hear CIOs tell us, I'm dealing with 40 vendors today and I want to try to deal with half as many. Yeah. So how do I do that? Well, I look at some of the consolidations taking place. And if you look at the capabilities of our platform, we've got applications and accelerators designed to do things like MES, WMS, CMMS, quality, even transportation and EDI, finite scheduling, all those type of capabilities. But we go beyond that. We can actually do integration like an iPaaS. So, things like Boomi and MuleSoft and Tibco, you have the ability to take advantage of. Maybe there's some cost savings to use Fuse instead of those applications. and really get that tech stack down to a more manageable amount of vendors.
Amazing. And yeah, it's hard enough. Think about how hard it is to lead IT. Like every IT organization and every large manufacturer is in the process of consolidating on one ERP.
Right.
Literally none of them are there yet, and it's a perpetual process. But the difficulty is not just one plant. Like it would be hard enough to do it at one plant, but when you're running a fleet of 50 plus plants, every one of them has a different tech stack.
Right.
And so if you want to standardize on one ERP, you kind of force the ERP further down than its natural home should be.
Yeah.
It's a good reason. You're trying to do something good. You're standardizing different plants so you can compare them with one another. But the problem is you're forcing an ERP right down onto the plant floor where it's worst. Right. And so like everybody loses. It's a hard implementation. It's late. That's why nobody has ever achieved one ERP. Like it's literally never happened. And this feels like a great way to balance, okay, look, we're going to be on one ERP. We're going to push financials as like the core that's happening on the ERP.
Right.
But we need a flexible MES/WMS/CMMS/everything else that can like acknowledge that 70 of our plants are in a certain maturity stage and have a certain tech stack. This new acquisition has a different one. If you try to do all of that in the ERP, like it simply can't be done. It's not the ERP's fault.
Right.
No such system exists that can do all of that and financials everywhere. It just doesn't exist.
We're seeing two trends amongst our customers and some of the prospects we're talking to today. It's one of the trends is, to your point, companies that are either acquiring new businesses or their model is to increase the number of plants. To your point, they're running multiple different systems, multiple different ERPs. What they're trying to do is really standardize and put in best practices at the shop floor level. They really want to understand the operational efficiencies of each facility and how they're operating overall.
Yeah.
What they've been experimenting with and we're having great success with is they're putting in Fuse to actually run the manufacturing operations and holding the ERP to do what it does best. And that's the financials, it's the purchasing, it's the front office. Again, that carpet and concrete analogy. ERP plays on the carpet front office side. Fuse plays on the industrial shop floor side on the concrete. By doing so, you put in a modern system where the operators can, have screens that are meaningful to their operations, their future-proof technology going forward. Yeah. But because of our underpinnings as an iPaaS, we've got the ability to snap into any ERP system. We have over 70 connectors pre-built, and we have all the ERP systems connectors as part of our library. Yeah. So what a lot of these companies are doing are saying, I can actually standardize and understand all these plants and put in best practices across all these plants without having to disrupt their accounting systems or having to disrupt the financials, so to speak. So they're doing so. But then when the time's appropriate, they'll snap on a new ERP system and standardize maybe the accounting functions across all of them.
There you go.
The other trend we're seeing on our customers is there's several out there that are looking at some very costly Oracle and SAP upgrades. And, when we're talking to them, they're telling us about some of the efficiencies they're trying to gain and what they're hoping to gain out of these multi-million-dollar expansions and customization projects that need to take place and the multiple years those will take. And it's painful because we can tell and we kind of have the conversation with them, and it's a little difficult at times, but it's like use ERP for what it's good for and put in Fuse for what it's made for. And it's the money's made and lost on the shop floor. Put in a system that's going to give you guys the technology you need to run your operations efficiently, affordably, and in a timely manner. And leave ERP for what it's good at. It's good at the financial and the front office activities. And what we're seeing is they're able to reduce their spend quite a bit by eliminating a lot of those customizations. Yeah. They're able to deliver to the floor a modern system that's going to solve a lot of the traceability and visibility problems that they have today. And then thirdly, they may want to delay that ERP upgrade because they don't need to now that they've put a system in to help address the shop floor where the money's made and lost.
Yeah, because that was the pain point in the first place for why they were trying to standardize.
Right.
I love it. And it maybe a final thought. It triggers my HR mind in that every company is dedicated to employee development. One of the best things you can do for employees throughout the org is if you're able to standardize processes like you described, you can take someone and send them through multiple developmental roles. And when they arrive at a plant in Kentucky, it feels just like the plant in Indiana.
Absolutely.
The business processes are the same. Like they can hit the ground running. And,
100%.
And even further, they're able to customize what's unique about that plant. That's another healthy tension that you guys help resolve.
Right.
We always want employees to do creative things and be scrappy and do what needs to be done at a particular situation.
Right.
While respecting, we have a corporate business system and there's a way of doing business, and like, don't deviate from that lane.
Exactly.
It's really hard. The more functionality you have on ERP, the harder it is to innovate on the plant floor. Because you can't go outside the lane. You have to stay in the corporate lane. And that's an irresolvable tension. Like, that tension should always be there. But the beauty is, if you have a platform that's composable is the word we use, that you can like develop on top of, you can have a layer that is standardized that like, hey, these are the rules of the road. You may not deviate from this section.
Right.
However, the Kentucky plant has a couple of unique problems. It's totally fine to do a unique functionality layer on top of the base. And now we can still compare plant to plant, and you can do special stuff in Kentucky that is not necessary in elsewhere. And
well said.
It would be, when I was running a plant, I would love to have that capability, because the biggest difficulty in giving people growth opportunities is the moment you move them to a new role at a new plant, they spend 3 to 6 months learning the processes of that plant, which is not value add time. You want them to develop their career, not learn a totally new thing before they can start making an impact.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, that is a big benefit. And man, I would love to run an org that had that ability to be able to thread the needle between those two opposing things: central control versus local innovation. That's amazing.
We'll definitely have to get you out and see some of our customers.
I know. I'm excited to.
Definitely.
Yeah, Steve, this has been very informative, and you guys have been great hosts. You've been great to all of it. It's not just us in the building. There's a bunch of us going through boot camp. You guys are very gracious hosts. We appreciate it, and I'm loving the buzz in the building here.
Definitely. Great vibe, and we try to open up our facilities, so if anyone wants to check us out, obviously go to fuse.com, but also have the ability to come take any of our classes and learn more about what we do.
It's amazing. The CEO himself will dive all the way down the tech stack with you.
Absolutely.
It's really cool. It's a really cool environment here. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Glenn. Appreciate you guys making the trip.
Likewise, Steve. Really appreciate it, man.